All right.
Cool. Right. Well, welcome to episode 2 of the Wildrunners podcast. I've got myself, Colin, and Dan is also here as well. Unfortunately, Sven couldn't make it. Family emergency, still in bed, out for a long run. Who knows? But today we're joined by Mr. Ben Weeks, or AKA the Barefoot Daddy. Ben, how you doing, mate?
I'm very good, thank you. Yeah.
Good. Thank you for coming on. How's lockdown life been treating you?
Yeah, it's been fun. Fun. I say fun. It's been a pain in the ass. I flit from acceptance to irritation, back to acceptance, and then back into irritation, and then elements of boredom throughout it. I mean, I don't think, other than the kid formerly being at home, we've had to try and we found a groove in this third lockdown, where my wife does the morning shift, sort of me going off for my morning run, and then I do the morning shift, and then she takes over in the afternoon. So we've both been able to balance work in that fashion.
Do you mean the homeschooling?
Yes.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah. And so once we eventually found that groove at the end of the first lockdown, doing it on the third lockdown, because the kids were still at school during that sort of second month, then we were just slotted back into it, and it worked, but it was still frustrating. You felt you were like 50% capacity of what you're capable of doing, and so yeah, it was fun. And we're quite happy that he is back at school now.
Were you day drinking last Monday?
If I was in London,
can you not say if the boss is listening?
If there was a pub open, I probably would be day drinking, I think. But no, I'm fortunate enough that work has been fairly consistent, so I was able to do a bit more work than I have been during the lockdown and stuff. So.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, I see you take your son with you on some of your runs as well.
I did during the lockdown. Basically, I'd sort of agreed with my wife that she doesn't do much in the ways of sort of running and tends to favour yoga. So I'd always sort of come at the view that the dog needs exercise, so I will run with him. I wasn't necessarily trying to run streak, but there was a phase last year where I was sort of trying to run every day, at least during the week. And my knees were just getting fucked up. So I started sort of throwing in these rest days, at which point when the lockdown was on, it was like, well, I'll bring my son out to school him on running. Not school him on running per se, but get him outside as well before sort of the rest of them burn off some early energies.
A PE lesson.
And that seemed to work out, but it then sort of transpired into sort of this gaps and gates thing that I posted about, where because we're running country lanes, there's obviously a variety of different gaps and or gates. And so he runs to each one, goes on my shoulder for the next phase, and then drops off on the next one, and so on and so forth over whatever course we've identified. And it just made it a little bit more fun for him, and supposedly a core workout for me, but I'm not sure I've worked out any sort of core benefits other than sort of a sore neck because he sort of buggers around whilst he's on the shoulders and waving his hands and all this crap.
No, that's good. That's good. That's something I'm looking forward to being able to do with my.
Your son's 4, right? You said
he will be next month.
Okay, and you just got the one.
Yeah, just the one.
Yeah. And Dan, yours is what, like spitting age old, right?
Yeah, 3.5 months old.
Nice.
Yeah, so it's all fresh and new for me.
Yeah, it's great, man.
Yeah.
How old is your son, Ben?
He just had his 6th birthday on March.
Okay.
So on the 5th of March. He's a little dude, actually. I'm inclined towards shouting a lot. But it's not for he's excellent. I mean, we share the same sort of interests for the most part. We got him a PlayStation controller for Christmas that he's now obsessed with video games and all that stuff. So I think he's moving into that age zone where he's been I was initially showing him elements of Assassin's Creed Valhalla, which I think we'd messaged about at one point.
Yeah.
Just on the parts where you can explore the countryside, but I've told him he's not allowed to interact with anybody because as soon as you do, you're just sucked into actually having to maim them. And my wife has said that she's not terribly keen. I'm seeing decapitations going on at this early age in his life. So.
And he's ruining your game save as well.
Huh?
And he's ruining your game save as well. He's
well,
a few hundred hours getting to that point.
God, I had a mate of mine down when I got Red Dead Redemption 2.
Oh, I love that game.
When it first came out, and a mate came down for New Year's when we were allowed to actually hang out with other people, and he was desperate to have a go and had a go. Decided to go and. I'd built up like a war chest of money, and he had decided to go around and maim as many people as he could with no particular purpose, so that by the time he'd finished and our drinking ensued, I had like various wanted posters for me across half the game. I was like, oh my God, I've got to dig myself out of this and try and... But anyway, yeah, so the boys, we've subsequently got him games, so he's obsessed with Sonic Racing, which is actually quite good fun. My wife and I kind of split the responsibilities of playing with him and racing with him. But I think it's a good hand-eye coordination trainer, is that's what we've convinced ourselves of. So
it's a bit of escapism, isn't it?
Yeah,
you know?
It's good.
Yeah.
So but we really wanted to go back to sort of like the start. So why did you start running in the first place?
I think I've always running's always been a part of what my fitness regime. I think when I was younger, God, it makes me sound old, but I'm not. Well, I suppose I am old enough. But like if uni and coming out of uni and not having a lot of money to be able to fork out money for a gym membership and all that sort of stuff, I would defer to going off for a run. You've always probably got trainers, go off and run and all that sort of stuff. I guess sort of the serious running kicked off when, so I left the country when I was 25, just a bit fucking bored of it, to be honest. I think I'd sort of obsessed over the fact that whenever there was a problem, the English way of dealing with stuff was a cup of tea. And there was a point that I was, 20, as I say, 24, 25, I was like, fucking hell, how can that be the answer to every situation? And decided to go off and sort of explore a little bit, but that exploration had to have a job with it. And so I joined a cruise ship. And long story short, met a girl, lived some time in Washington, DC, and she was Canadian. Eventually found ourselves into Toronto, where I generally stayed for about 10 years. It was during that time that I started getting more into running. So I joined a running group, and they then enticed me into doing this thing called the Around the Bay 30K, which is a qualifying race for the Boston Marathon.
Okay.
And one of the eldest, I think is older than Boston as a running meetup. And part of the challenge, although it's only 30K, so 12K short of a full marathon, it's done in March, which is in a place called Hamilton, which is right, if you know kind of where Toronto is, and you've got Lake Ontario and all that sort of stuff, there's this little bit here. And so you've got essentially reputed lake effect snow, but you do it in March, which was in the heart of winter for Canadians. And it was like, right, so you have to train during the winter. And that's part of the whole shtick of it, because you train through the winter in order to then go off and do this meet roughly about this time of year. So I think it's probably due in the coming weeks. And so I got sort of enticed into doing that. And that's when I really sort of started paying attention to it. And then I was supposed to do the Toronto Marathon that same year. But by the time that came around and I was training for it, my knees just I wasn't feeling good about my knees, and sacked it off. But leading up to that, I'd done a couple of 10Ks, I'd done a couple of half marathons and all that stuff. And that's, as I say, I then sort of flitted into sort of gym work and doing a bit more of that stuff, and got divorced, and there was a variety of different reasons, and then spent more time doing gym and losing weight. I mean, there's all these sort of undulations of what I guess I went through, that I've come back here, and running's always been at the center of what I've done. So all this other shit's gone on during that time.
Yeah.
But I at the moment, this lockdown has helped my running no end. At the moment, I think I'm more invigorated now by it than I have been in a long time.
What, this third lockdown, or just the lockdowns in general?
Just the lockdowns from the beginning one all the way through to now. In terms of getting outside, and actually just going off and doing stuff. You don't need a gym. I mean, I appreciate what Sven does for a living, but you don't need a gym. And we might come on to this natural movement thing if there's time later on, but that seems to open my eyes recently. You don't actually need a gym and fork over 40 quid a month for it, or whatever the price, or 100 quid a month, depending on where you live and all that sort of stuff. So does that answer the question in a very long-winded way?
No, absolutely it does. Absolutely it does. So, I mean, just out of curiosity, when you did was it Race the Bay?
Around the Bay, yeah.
Around the Bay. How cold was it?
I think one of the actual day, I couldn't tell it. I mean, it was pretty rainy when we set off. And so you had all sort of the gear and such. And I think it rained throughout most of it. The elation once across the line, because you run, it finishes in one of the ice hockey stadiums down there, and so you come in and it's all enclosed and it was all open and all that sort of stuff. And there's all people sitting around, so all your supporters. That was quite an experience. Not that I care. I think the guy, when I was halfway, the guy who won it had finished. gives you a sense of how bloody quick I was at the time. But one of the training, I think I remember training in -25.
Ouch.
Yeah. And there's a guy who's a Brit who now lives over there, and we've connected on Instagram. Sorry, I'm pointing because my phone's here off to my right, but he is currently over there at the moment and does a lot of ultra marathons, from what I can gather. And I started engaging with him, going, "Oh well, if you're going to wrap up because of the weather, make sure you've got Vaseline to put over what you so around your eyes and all that sort of stuff, so that you don't get frostbite." I reminded him of it when he was sort of pointing out that the weather was sort of dipping quite heavily, and all that sort of stuff. Whether he's actually listened or not is entirely up to him. But
you'll know if his next photo is another nose. You'll know if his next post he's lost his nose.
Got this black spot on his nose.
Yeah.
One of the other things that happened is that I had a camelback training through that, so I still have it, funnily enough. And the water tube tended to freeze within the first hour. So you were out for like 2-3 hour runs in order to sort of acclimatise and all that stuff. And you got yourself into that headspace of, okay, I'm going to go this distance. Okay, fine. And you got the water, and you get through and realise that it was. So I got to a point at one point where I was trying to put a little bit of salt in it to see if that would keep the water going, and then the sort of the electrolytes component would sort of kick in so that I'd be more energetic. And that didn't work whatsoever. The tube just froze up. Oh well, learn, right?
Did you find a way to stop it from freezing?
No, I'm honest. I don't think I did. I think it was sort of trying to break up the ice, and even then, that didn't really sort of help much. And so you ended up putting up with the fact that you couldn't drink. But then at those sorts of temperatures, I don't think you're particularly worried about dehydration. It's more sort of getting going and actually running. I guess. I guess, yeah. I mean, if I collapse, I'm sure there's snow on the ground, so long as it wasn't yellow.
Yeah, that's it.
Probably drink that in. But I was never particularly competitive. It was more the feat of doing it, which I think very much, I think, from listening to your podcast, what you boys are about. It's the sort of just getting off and seeing what you can actually accomplish, right?
That's the plan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I can get very competitive, but a lot of the time I'm.
You know, I'm almost. I got on my run today, which was crap, but I got. Was it yesterday? No, it was yesterday. One that I sacked off. I got a crown. I got a crown. I was going to screenshot it and post it and tag you to my little post. And went, oh, I got a crown, bitch.
You should have, man.
Yeah,
I'm well enough yet to be able to sort of throw down the verbiage yet, but all in the fullness of time, I'm sure.
No, I think I'm annoying a few people near where I live, going after crowns and what have you. So I've stopped for the last few weeks just because I want to concentrate on.
It makes them more competitive, right?
Yeah, that's why I look at it. I mean, there's a couple, and I think there's two that I've got my eye on, and I think I'm like 2 or 3 seconds off of it. And I'm like, right, I'm just going to save them because I know I can make 2 or 3 seconds up. So, but there's some of them, and you look at them, and you're just like, that's bullshit. Someone's been on a bike. Like, I'm sure there's this one, and I appreciate it's downhill, but it's like 17 seconds, and I can't remember how long it is. It's over half a kilometre, and I'm like, no one's done that ran that in 17 seconds. Like,
that would be quick.
I'm like, come on, I can't believe someone's done that. So
Someone's done it on a quad bike or something.
But yeah, so you've got the bug with the Strava crowns now, then, have you?
No, I couldn't care less. If I'm brutally honest with you, Colin.
No.
I was like, okay. The segments. So the local legends. I was like, I got. So there is the 5 mile route I typically do for 5K Friday. I've had the local legend because I'm up there all the time, quite a few times, and it's been knocked off. And there's been a little part of me that's like, oh, I need to get in touch with that person and tell them to fuck off. So there's been an element to that, but I don't feel particularly that I'm in a massively competitive place at the moment. It's more I use them more for how I'm doing personally, rather than sort of running around. There's enough people far and wide here that the probability of my actually interacting with them, they don't occur often enough for me to be that worried about them, if that makes sense. Yeah.
Well, me and Dan were joking earlier.
A competitive streak, but I try to sort of temper it because I know that I'll usually sort of chomp at the bit at the time of actually it happening.
We've been joking about driving to each other's necks of the woods and trying to steal each other's crowns recently, haven't we?
Yeah, you asked for my address, didn't you?
Yeah.
You said, that's just so I can come and get you crowns.
Yeah.
You're welcome to come down here and have a crack.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, you know that's going to happen.
Yeah.
Do it.
Because we can't have a shave until that happens.
We have a spare room. You can bunk up, COVID safe.
Yeah, that's it. Temperature check before we go in.
Yeah.
Indeed. How do you feel about all this COVID stuff? I mean, Dan, you're NHO, you're mental health for NHO.
Yeah. Well, I do maintenance work, so it's all electrical by trade.
Okay.
So I go on to a lot of the wards and stuff.
Okay.
I mean, you've got patients that are like there 24/7, so the actual wards are quite safe in respect to COVID.
Yeah.
But part of my job, I had to set up a call centre on the first lockdown for people to call up.
Yeah.
And they originally said like, it will be about 100 phone calls. I mean, they're getting like 5,000 phone calls now, and it's quite scary because it's mainly young females as well.
Really?
Yeah, and they're trying to find out why. And I know part of it is because us men, we don't open up. Do you know what I mean? We just keep stuff in, don't we?
Sure.
But I think obviously a lot of the females, the younger ones, like I know my partner, with the baby, she's stuck indoors 24/7.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I can't imagine how hard that is. I mean, I go to work, I get a break. So if there's more like her age with babies at home, I can imagine that's just, insane.
Yeah, my wife was a bit. I think well, obviously she wasn't dealing with COVID at the time, but I think that first year
Yeah.
Is quite hard. And don't know about Colin, your wife or partner and all that sort of stuff. Whether she had a hard time for the first year. But
Funny enough, we were just talking about it before me and Dan came on. She thinks she just blocked it out, part of it. Just can't remember it.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
it must be hard.
I get frustrated that during these lockdowns they haven't left the gyms open. I find that odd, and to a certain extent nurseries, right, where the whole area to combat COVID is being fit and healthy. So most of the people that have sadly passed from COVID have been unhealthy, probably larger than they should be, or they're old. And one of the things that you can do to beat that, obviously, is to get fit. So why the government then didn't sort of get on the bandwagon and turn around and go, okay, let's get subsidized gym usage, or allow gyms to stay open under controlled conditions. A, would see those businesses still go, and B, it would see people maybe sort of feel a compulsion to. That's the beauty of this wild running and this running community, is that people have woken up and gone, I can run. That's kind of what I like about it, I suppose, at the moment.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you with the gyms. I mean, I've got everything I need at home. I don't have a gym membership, but if that was taken away from me, that would affect my mental health so much.
Yeah.
Because obviously I could still run, but I do a lot of other stuff. You both see my Strava, so you can see.
Yeah.
I'm always doing something. And I personally, you could make a gym safer than Tesco easily, quite easily. And I think, apart from in the first lockdown, the supermarkets have done sweet FA to try and mitigate the amount of people going. Yeah, they put traffic lights up, but I've never seen it on red when I've gone.
No.
They had one-way system, that's been gone. So they could have done a lot more. But yeah, I'm just hoping that we're nearly at the end of it now. Because even today, me and some mates were talking about a rave we want to go see Fatboy Slim. And I'm like, I cannot wait.
He was advertising something on Instagram the other day.
I just cannot wait to go and have a rave. Like,
lick everyone's faces, right?
I would just love it. Just let my hair down. Just see my boys, have a good night, dance to music. I can't wait. That and actually going to a proper race and having the proper race village atmosphere.
Yes.
Those are the two things that, if I could do them both on the same day, that'd be great. Like race in the day, rave at night, that'd be perfect.
It's probably a business opportunity there.
Somewhere. Yeah, I just say we can work on this.
Yeah, stand, man, stand. I'll do it.
While we were watching, I'd sort of I'd said to my wife when I'd started this Barefoot Daddy profile, it all started with a view to just calling account to myself, I guess. And I said to her, well, if there's something going with this, then I'll actually sit down and build a website. So I did that. And then said, well, if there's any business opportunity here, then I'll get to myself to 1,000 followers on Instagram. And if that actually happens, which seemed nuts and unlikely, then I'll sit down and think about what the business idea is. And I hit 1,000 at the weekend. And now we're sort of sitting there thinking, and she keeps on bringing up this idea of us selling up where we are here and moving further southwest down to Cornwall. But what you can get for the price of a house here, you can get like acreage down there. And that'll become the Barefoot Daddy like training camp or whatever. Or if there's enough land, or you go up to Shetland and buy some place. I think we saw something in Shetland that was sort of 14 acres or something like that everyone comes up and it becomes this permanent home for like a training zone and all that sort of stuff.
Wow.
Whether this actually materializes or not, we will see. But we're
So
interconnected now as Wildrunners, and it sounds like there's similar ideas as to where you want to take the Wildrunners, that we'll have conversations about it as things develop.
So that probably leads on twice. So where did the whole barefoot run? Have you always run barefoot? I'm assuming you didn't run Canada barefoot.
So the little backstory is the fact that I think after I did the Around the Bay, I was in the market for new trainers. I went to a running store and was like, I need some new trainers. Any tips, recommends, etc., like the New Balance or what have you else. My eye crossed over on a shoe and was like, oh, those are quite nice. What are those and all that stuff? He goes, oh, it's this new trend called barefoot running, and it's not really any trend and all that sort of stuff. And how do you feel? He goes, it's not something you want to sort of dive into, etc., but there's a lot of people doing it at the moment. This must have been, well, for argument's sake, we'll call it 10 years ago or something like that. It may be a bit longer. I tried them on and was like, all right, let's have a go. And that was it. There was no podiatrist, there was no pediatrician, or whatever the terminology is. There's the guy who does the barefoot shoe review, which you may or may not be aware of. I started talking to him. He got into barefoot shoes because his doctor suggested it was a good idea because of either some sort of injury. There was none of that. I just thought the shoes looked good, and it would be quite fun to give it a go. And I went out and did it. And actually, once you get used to the idea that there is nothing between you and the road or the track you're on, there's a transition point, but I don't think I'd have it any other way. And that's how it's been, again, up until this lockdown, where it's sort of, I've spent more time thinking and looking at it and understanding and all that stuff, that I've become maybe a little bit more militant, but not like I'm going to go and campaign and get rid of the shoes. We should all just be grounding, man. Yeah, peace and love. It's not. I don't think that's kind of what I'm looking for. But that seems to be the sort of path I'm heading down, I think. And so that's that. In simplicity, that is the bottom line to it.
So what would you say the main benefits that you found from barefoot running have been? So
I did. It must have been a couple of years ago. I'm sure I'd sort of, my right knee flares up quite a lot. And I couldn't strictly give you a reason why. If you talk to a lot of these sort of naturopaths, it's probably something to do with posture and positioning and all that sort of stuff. I've never really delved too much into it, but I'd thought that my problem was the barefoot shoes, and went and got some ultra trail running shoes that had a bigger sort of tread on them and all that stuff. And I did those for 6 months, and it was probably more uncomfortable than not. And so I then started focusing more on what the benefits were of the barefoot and feeling the ground and the reaction that your foot deals with stuff, and how your ability, and it sort of all that sort of stuff spurred that I was like, okay, right, let's sack off these other shoes. Let's stick this out and work with it, and we'll just go slowly and transition back in. And the more time I sort of spent and thought about how I was running and what I was looking at, rather than just going out there and just pegging it, I find that you get better feedback. So if you, for a lot of us, I'm assuming we trail run. I think, Dan, a lot of your stuff is sort of gravelly, grassy stuff. I don't know whether, Colin, whether you're on roads as much as you are gravel.
On more roads, unfortunately.
Yeah, at the moment. Roads I think fundamentally are fine, but if you're going off track, you've got, like, you might have badger set holes, you might have rabbit holes and all that sort of stuff. Horses riding all the way around where we are. Your foot could sort of dig into something and you twist your ankle. The probability is that barefoot running, those smaller muscles and ligaments within your feet will be stronger because you're feeling everything, and so they'll be able to adapt to the ground better. than perhaps you would do if you're wearing a shod shoe.
Mm-hmm.
The idea is that we were designed, I guess, we have developed over millennia as human beings, that the muscles in your leg, I mean, there's, what is it, each foot has 26 bones, 33 joints, and it says here, this is my research here. 26 bones, 33 joints, and a network of more than 100 tendons, muscles, and ligament. I mean, that is complex, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So why we then sort of put them into a shoe, because ultimately there's this book called the Born to Run, which a lot of people tend to read about the barefooters. It's well worth getting into. They talk about it, that it was the current Nike shoe trend was developed because someone could. It was not. There was no orthopedic purpose to why they were created in the 60s, and so it's trying to come back to that and allowing your foot and in turn your body to do what it's supposed to do.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you, and I kind of don't.
Okay.
I mean, I walk around just day to day in Vivo barefoots quite a lot.
Yeah.
Obviously, I know that's probably like a level above where you are, but I cannot imagine running in them.
Have you tried it?
I've jogged like from when it's been raining to the shop, and no, it just doesn't feel right to me, because I think I'd be more worried about if I'm going to go do like a flat out 5K or something.
Yeah.
You know, granted that would be on the road. I don't want to think about what's underneath my foot other than like checking, you know.
Well, you're at one with the land, Colin.
I'm trying to get that Strava star, mate. So
yeah, but you never know. You might perform better and faster.
Is there like a performance? I mean, what is the fastest barefoot mile?
I don't have the answer to that question.
Yeah,
if I'm brutally honest. I mean, I look, the ultimately it's horses for courses, right? If you don't, if it is the style that I prefer. The working theory is, and I feel like I'm somewhat of a practitioner in that sense, is that if the muscles in your foot are and legs are performing at their optimal level, which supposedly barefoot does, you won't injure as quickly, and even if you do injure, you'll recover quicker. And there are studies out there. I could bore you with a bunch of them. And if you want to put some description stuff, I will track it down and send it over to you to put it into the podcast wherever you put it. But there is some studies that suggest that the small ligatures within the feet repair a lot quicker because you're barefoot running. You don't open your stride up, right, as much as you would do in a standard shod shoe. You're lighter on your feet, and so by that definition, you potentially could be faster. You're using your body fully rather than relying on a cushion within a shoe. And so it's not, you get to a point where you don't think about stuff. I mean, I'm a lot more I'm hyper aware of it at the moment because I've all of a sudden decided to see what it's like actually taking the shoes off and running pure barefoot. But that in and of itself is an experience that I'm quite enjoying doing. I don't know, although I did run on the road in our village on Sunday. I think that was more a point of, if I'm brutally honest, I think I did that more. I felt a compulsion to do it, but it's like, well, I'm on this barefoot thing, let's try it. And the road's smooth enough. And it didn't feel any worse. I mean, okay, there was nothing between the skin and the road, so I could have trod on some broken glass and stuff, and so you worry about those sorts of things. But what's the worst that's going to happen? I'm going to put a plaster on it.
Yeah, I did notice you had to put a disclaimer on your stories about it, didn't you?
Well, I just felt that you put something onto YouTube, right? And you put something onto Instagram stories, and some bellend will have a crack at it, like without. I mean, I've done this, and I don't. I guess there's this sort of inner control mechanism within me that goes, I do not want. If someone turns around and goes, "Oh, I saw it from this guy, and this is how I broke my toe," I want it to be bloody clear that if you do it, it's not. I'm doing it because I've chosen to do it. I'm not going to blame anyone if I do. You can't blame me for it because I've told you don't do it unless you've sought advice. And it's the same in the YouTube video and all that stuff. So, no, God, it sounds sort of like I'm on a soapbox, but know yourself. You know your body, right? So, if you feel a compulsion to do it, then have at it. And if anyone wants to ask a question, so Gummy Bear Don't Care. She reached out to me when we connected and asked about barefoot shoes and all that sort of stuff. That's all I'm trying. If you're interested and curious, then I'll talk you through it.
Yeah.
Or at least my own experiences. Do you know what I mean about the disclaimer though? I mean, in this media world, someone would turn around and go, fuck you.
Yeah. I saw you down. I was like, it's a shame that you felt the need to put that up. You know,
I agree with you, but you know, you would just catch someone, especially if it's on an international platform, right? Someone could turn around and go in whatever country and then come after you for doing something stupid like that, which is a bit sad, but it is what it is.
Yeah. Do you have a long-term goal or like a set distance you'd like to run, like complete barefoot, or is it just generally just a run?
So my goal last year was to do a barefoot marathon, but it's barefoot shoe like in the Vibrams, which is what is my weapon of choice. The pure barefoot stuff is so spanking new that I'm just taking one day at a time with that. So I'll go off and do some barefoot stuff, which I'll bore the crap out of people with on Instagram tomorrow. And try and do some of this. My eyes have dilated over this natural movement stuff. That sort of seems to transition like they go hand in glove together. Do I have a goal? I still would like to do a marathon. I have not done a full marathon. Is the simple answer to that question. And the Trail Pursuit one, I was in touch with them today just to double confirm that the Lake District marathon and half are sold out, which they are.
Yeah, I asked as well because I know Colin's doing it.
Yeah, so I'm still open to doing that. We're trying to work out whether, but I would do the 10K. I'd be quite happy with the 10K. That seems to be my sweet spot at the moment. So if that materialises, I don't think, Dan, I'm going to leave this on until then.
I couldn't wait that long either, don't worry.
Fuck. It's funny, I was talking to my old man the other day. He goes, yeah, your beard looks fine at the moment, but business is starting to open up more. You're going to be seeing more clients. And I've recently sort of gone into partnership with a bigger surveying shop than I currently own. And there may be some situations where I'm probably going to have to trim the beard a little bit. We like the Shoreditch vibe. There are, but we'll see if I know a week in advance, then we'll maybe throw a challenge out of some description. We'll put a vote to the people whose beard is more handsome. Whoever wins then gets to decide whether we trim or not. Huh?
I'm down with that.
Yeah, fine.
Quickest barefoot 5K Friday. I think that should be the challenge.
Fucking hell. I might try and map out. Running on the grass barefoot is fine. I mean, there's some flint and stuff you could probably maim yourself with. The gravel bit is it's a different kettle of fish. That. Depending on where you are, I'm open to sort of. That's probably a good goal, actually, Colin. In terms of the sort of goal question, is how quickly I can do a 5K. So I've done a 26, right? The fastest 5K I've done was sort of during this sort of lockdown. I'd be interested to see if I can beat 26 minutes purely barefooted.
Yeah, and 26 is a decent time for a 5K.
Anyway, yeah.
Yeah.
Anyhow, other questions? Any other questions?
Well, yeah, you've touched on the primal movement
Yeah.
that they've been doing. I've seen bits and pieces of it that you've been posting. What can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, so this guy in Ireland, Ryan Primal Fitness, he got in touch with me and said, "Look, I've got this 21-day movement reboot thing. Would you be interested in doing it if I send you all the videos and the documents and all that stuff?" And I was like, "Yeah, all right, I'll have a go." And the more I've gone into, I've gone way beyond the 21 days because time permitting and all that stuff. I've since he put it forward, I was like, all right, I'll try this, I'll try that. It feels kind of like yoga and all that stuff. And then, but you see some of his videos. He's put a pull-up bar on a branch, and has got himself on top of the branch, standing balanced on this branch. I'm like, dude, you're kind of defying gravity a little bit. I mean, literally, he's not holding on to anything. He's just got his balance and his core tight. What was the one that I posted today of him hanging upside down on a branch with his hands dangling into a river? All right. So the only part to that is I'm fascinated on doing that. And I showed that the profile, that the guy's profile link. Some of the shit that he's doing, if you go through his Instagram feed and it's the jumping, it's all this stuff would probably apply to OCR, right? Because they're doing stuff that I don't feel that I'm capable currently of doing, but I think it's plausible that I could with a bit of training. That's kind of where that's come from, and it's taken about 3, 4, 5 weeks and sniffing around the dreaded internet on it as to what the how far can you stretch yourself, and what do you need to do it? Well, frankly, nothing. And that's kind of interesting at the moment. So you'll probably hopefully see more of that. But I am completely malcoordinated. And there's going to be, so I'm doubting that I'm not doubting that there will be some faceplant video footage somewhere in the coming months. But if I vowed, coming back briefly to the goals, I vowed that this year is I'll be 45 this year, and this will be my fittest year. Is the idea.
Cool, it's a good goal. Like that.
So whether I actually achieve it or not. Yeah, I don't know any much more than what I'm seeing, but as a couple of lads who are into that fitness stuff, honestly, fall down the rabbit hole and have a look at some of the shit these guys are doing, and if you don't come away from looking at those going, oh fuck, I can do that, I could have a crack at that. I mean, you've got the bars in your back garden, right, where you do the swinging and stuff. There's a stack load of stuff you can do there on those bars. I mean, I'll try it on mine at some point. I got up to the arm piece. So it's the getting up the waist and all over and then sort of hanging upside down. I'd love to be able to do that sort of thing. I've got some other mates that just mock me senselessly for even trying. But if you don't try, you don't know, right?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. The thing is, it sounds like the sort of stuff I don't know about you two. I used to do that sort of shit when I was a kid.
Yeah, mess around.
Yeah.
But you forget it, right? As an adult, right?
Yeah, definitely. I think that's because you're fearless as a kid, aren't you? You'll just be like, oh yeah, I'll go and do that. And then as you get older, you think, oh, actually, this could happen. But then you see other people do it, and you think, actually, yeah, I can do that again.
Yeah.
But it helps with a kid. So there are elements of general nervousness that he has, right, about stuff, and that might be sort of attributed to us just not wanting him to hurt himself and all that. He is going to come to a point where he is going to have to go off and explore things and hurt, and not that I wish that upon him, but you don't learn lessons. I mean, I'm sure we've all had scars and injuries and broken arms and done stuff as we've grown up, but he's going to have to go through those things. So why not learn about climbing trees with him, because he's not going to have the confidence to do it unless who else is he going to? He hasn't got an older brother or sister.
But the other thing is, like a lot of the children nowadays, they don't even go out, do they? You know, they're quite happy to sit indoors when they get home from school.
That's really sad if that's the case.
Yeah, on computers. I don't know if it's like that where you are, but like where I live, very rarely do you see children out playing anymore.
Really?
Yeah. But we've already said, like, obviously, when my boy's old enough, like we're always out for walks with him now. And that he's going to be brought up outside.
But your wife Mandy, she does OCRs as well, right?
Yeah, well, we're not married yet, mate.
Oh, you're not? Okay, sorry. Forgive me.
I can still get away with things like that. Yeah, she's into OCR and running and everything. So,
well, surely that's a good foundation, right?
Yeah, definitely.
And Colin, your missus, she's into the same sort of stuff?
Similar to yours, yoga. She does do a few bits and pieces in the garage, so like elliptical and the stationary bike. But no, she doesn't run or do OCR. But they're local to me. Hopefully they'll still be here when we come out of this. But there is it's called mini military mud run.
Okay.
And it is actually designed for kids. So I think the youngest they can sign up, I think, is actually 4.
Okay.
And Oscar would love that. He loves climbing.
Good name.
Like you take him to the park, and just yesterday he was hanging upside down on one of the nets, going, "Look at me, look at me." So yeah, he loves that sort of stuff. So yeah, it'll definitely.
Yeah, you were saying, I think he does some of the workouts with you, right?
Yeah. He comes in, and obviously I'm doing this stupid lockdown dead hang challenge, which I'm starting to regret me doing.
Why?
Mate,
what's the goal for that? I mean, I've only done it because you're doing it all the time. I was like, right, well, screw you, Colin. I'll take the crown.
I've kind of given it. I'm not doing dead hangs every week. Like I'm going to do monkey bars this week because it's just gets boring. But he's come in there quite a few times, and he's hanging off something in there or swinging. Like I think I could actually probably leave him in the woods, and he'd be quite happy. Like give him with the badgers or something like that.
Yeah, I think if you're doing those sorts of things, right, then and you continue to do them even when the kid is in that sort of impressionable age, which is where that whole running thing with him went. Is that if I set this off in the right style and he's having a good time with it, he'll hopefully see it through and not become some sort of cat's potato. But I think we'll always limit him to the amount of video games he has, and there are days where he doesn't go outside, and my wife and I are both like, we need to go off and do it. And it's you can go up a beautiful hill here, literally right outside our front door. And we've got the dog as well, which forces our hand to go off and do that sort of stuff. So not that I'm in sort of some parental soapbox, but I think I've always grown up with that sort of mentality of being outside, and so I don't see any reason why.
Yeah, I think you're talking to 2 dads that pretty share that same philosophy. I mean, there are days where we don't leave the house, admittedly, just like everyone. But yeah, more often than not, we will try and go out, even if it's just for a walk. And he's on, I think I was telling you about the little balance bike that he's got.
Yes.
And he's ready for his birthday. We've ordered him a new bike, and we're just going to stack off stabilizers. He's got his balance already. He shoots off down the hills on that balance bike, like quite happily. Hasn't broken anything yet. Hasn't stacked it yet. So let's see what happens.
We got mine a skateboard, which I'm slightly pensive about because I don't know quite how. I've never skateboarded, and it's what he does. And we've got to find a place in order for him to try it and all that stuff. But I'm not cool enough by any stretch of the imagination to know anything about skateboarding. So quite an interesting learning experience, of which he's going to suffer all the pain because he's trying to do these things, and Dan's just going to stand by. No, do it like this. It's because YouTube told you.
That's it. No, it's good fun getting out with them and just playing with them, isn't it? Just like
we got Nerf guns each for Valentine's Day. We got Valentine's Nerf guns so that we can get into some shooting match. So he got one for Christmas. My wife and I gave us ones for each for Valentine's Day instead of flowers, and so that we could have a Nerf gun battle during lockdown. So all seems healthy stuff about trying to shoot each other, but hey, maybe it's a good thing to let out aggression during the course of that time, but hopefully it'll never come back again and they'll fall into their own, but whatever. What else do you need to know, chaps?
Dan, you got anything?
Have you got any races lined up this year? I know
No.
it's a bit hard to this year's just 1 year that don't plan anything or.
I'll wing it. The Brecon Beacons ones. The Trail Pursuit Brecon Beacons isn't terribly far from where we are. My dad used to. Brecon is relatively familiar because my dad ran an infantry training centre that was down there, so it's relatively familiar territory. I was sort of enticed that. I have not committed any money to anything, and will probably do it last minute. So like this Wolfpack 100 that you sort of enticed us into because it's in a team and we don't really have to run that far. That seems like a good step in the right direction. Yeah, I haven't planned. I keep on. I will flirt with different things during the course. I haven't committed to a marathon yet. I'm not. I get a bit sort of. I don't know whether anyone else gets the same feeling, but I'm uncertain as to whether I'm ready for a marathon. I'm sure I would be fine, but self-doubt kicks in. It's like, can I do that? So I was mapping. There's a woman called Briggsy who is doing a March accumulator. So each day she obviously goes up by the calendar date. And she's got gaps of people doing it with her tomorrow and 31st, and it's in miles. And I mapped out a 16-mile route tomorrow, and I backed out because I was like, 16 miles, it's a Tuesday, I do have a day job, and it'll take 3.5 hours out of my day, right? And that's 16 miles is okay, so that's what, 10 miles shy of a full marathon, just like that. I'm not sure I'm there yet. I haven't done long enough distances.
Have you ever run a half marathon?
Yes, I've done 2 or 3 of those.
See, I don't know. I mean, I've only ever run marathon distance once, and I didn't train for it. But I kind of think if you can run a half, you can run a full. It might not be a quick full, but I kind of think you can do it. So what I did was, where I live, there is a route I can take around the town, which is a half marathon.
Okay.
From my front door.
Yeah.
So I did that. Decided to use my house as like a quick pit stop, just so I could change my top, have something to eat, and then get going again. So it was like a 10-minute pit stop.
Yeah.
And then went out and did it again, without stopping the clock.
Okay.
So yeah, I think you'd be able to do it.
We did. So they did. So there's a group of about 6. So Min, who you've been engaging with a bit. She and a couple of others that I sort of tag quite a lot, even yourself. So there's Basie, her name is. There's this guy Darren. There's Dom, who's that barefoot guy who did the lockdown leg. Min, and then another guy called Make Ready Daniel. So there's a guy called The Naturalist. So he's done the 3 Peaks barefoot and all this other stuff. He set up a lockdown leg in the last lockdown that we then formed together as a group, and you daisy chained 100 miles off of each other. So you each did your portion. Yeah. Essentially 17 miles. And the route that I ran is about 17 miles from my house, but my wife had to drop me off in order for me to then run home, and it was fine. And I did it in, I think, a couple of 2 or 3 hours, perhaps. I think I blistered on my shoe because there was a hole in them at the time. So I don't think you're wrong in that I probably could do it. It's just setting the spot and the time. And that's kind of what I need to do. There was another guy on the Instagram that I was chatting to. My entire life seems to be Instagram at the moment. It's ridiculous. But there was a guy that I was chatting about who just went out and did a half marathon because he wanted to see where his threshold was. Yeah. I think that's quite a good idea. Yeah. I mean, his vocabulary on his posts drive me nuts, and I'm sure he's a super nice guy, but it's the wrong comma there and it's the wrong the or there. But the theory of going out and just nailing a half marathon just to see, without it having the pressure of who am I going to let down, or who am I not, whether I'm doing it or not, that's something that I might do. So in sort of coming full circle, I think that's probably an initial goal.
Use a virtual for that. Just sign up for a marathon distance for a virtual one, and then if you do it, you get a medal for it. If you don't, well, it's a virtual.
That's not a bad shout. So I'm part of the Lonely Goats running club that I was enticed into before the sort of the advent of Wildrunners, which I seem to be more entrenched in at the moment. And yeah, they're doing medals for virtual stuff. So that's not a bad shout.
One that's the medal I got for there were two reasons I did the marathon. One was I had to do it to get part of a medal, and the other one was because I'd signed up for trail pursuit, so I went to see if I could do it. And the medal I did, it was for Rasselbach, and they're 7 Seas medals,
okay.
which is one big magnetic medal. Sorry, my cat is desperate for attention here. And then you've got little different magnets that you put onto this bigger medal, and they're all different distances. So you've got like mile, 5K, 10K, half marathon, and 100 kilometers in a week.
Okay.
So obviously I knew at some point to complete the series, I had to do a marathon.
Yeah.
So within the space of me signing up for that virtual, and then signing up for a race, I was like, well, I might as well go and do it, because at least I'll get something for it, and at least I'll know where I am for the races I've got next year.
I like that idea, though. It's quite cool. Now you're going to do an ultra. I mean, obviously, Dan, you've got your OCR in Kilimanjaro, man.
Yeah.
I did. Honestly, when you were asking me about that, I was seriously having conversations with my wife.
Yeah. You say you've got a wedding that weekend?
It's not that weekend. The weekend after is my brother's wedding.
Okay. Yeah.
Are you best man?
Huh?
Are you best man?
No, mate. No.
Go. You're all right. Not needed.
I'm an usher, though. Just a fuck about ushers. I don't know. It's a very tempting proposition. Yeah. But my wife will turn around and go, well, if you're going, we're all going, because who wouldn't want to go to Kilimanjaro?
Yeah, definitely.
And all that stuff.
Yeah.
And she's left with my son for how long it takes and all that stuff. And he's back at school. So these are the complicated questions that I'm currently asking myself. I found it funny that when you suggested it, the organisers of the OCR then decided to reply to the thread.
Yeah, I did see that. Yeah,
it's quite amusing. Oh, go on. I'm always open to different ideas. So and I quite like this sort of group element of everyone kind of doing the same thing at the moment. I do things on my own, but the camaraderie is quite cool, and that's what I'm getting out of this running community. Seems to be quite driving my motivation at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, because you're not on Facebook, are you? You've got a hate relationship with that, haven't you?
I have a Facebook profile. I'm on it. I have a page. I have chosen to get rid of it from my phone and my iPad, and I'm just not compelled. I mean, like, Instagram's Facebook, but nicer.
I personally find Instagram a lot more positive. I think
massively.
Yeah, Facebook I find a very. I mean, if it wasn't for the Wildrunners like group on Facebook, I'd happily not have it. Like yourself, because I find that a very negative place.
Oh, massive! I mean, I've got one of my gym clients. When he first set off, when he first started out, he was building his website and all that sort of stuff. He goes, "Oh man," he goes, Instagram. That's the only way I'm going. Anyway, I go, "Why wouldn't you be on Facebook?" Yeah. He goes, "Oh, it's a cesspit." And the more the more I've looked at it and looked at some of the feeds and the bullshit that people talk on there, and unqualified opinions, and I've just had a cup of tea. I do not give a fuck. I don't care how many sugars you have. I don't know whether you have it black or white or otherwise. And I was just like, no. And they could respond equally the same with, I don't give a shit about the right. I've got some mates who have come and followed the Barefoot Daddy to boost the follower base and then sacked it off within 3 days because they hadn't realised how often I post. Yeah. And I think we all probably do the same in a manner of speaking. So that's fine. But this is that, there is, I don't think there's anyone on my Insta feed that is not in some way doing some sort of fitness or OCR, which is this new thing that I've kind of picked up since getting to know you boys and then runners. And they're all experiencing the same stuff, and it's upbeat, it's positive. The amount of comments I had off today's post about setting off really quickly, just sort of bolting down the road and then just burning yourself out within the first mile. Everyone's turned around and said, "Oh yeah, these are the tips that I do." Why would you go to Facebook if you're not going to get upbeat comments like that, right?
Yeah, that's it.
That's my reason. But I do have an account. I could log in and I get 400 messages saying, "Oh, these people contacted you." That's implying that I'm popular. I'm not.
But it's social media nowadays has a lot of positives, like obviously reaching out to you for tonight.
Yeah.
And, I've made so many connections through it.
It's just finding that with a whole bunch of you, and either getting leathered because there's an opportunity to do it through camping or having done a run or whatever, because everyone seems like a solid dude.
Yeah.
I think social media is excellent if you take it for what it is.
Yeah.
And use it. It is a tool you use at your discretion rather than it becoming serving to you, right? Mm-hmm. So you get advertised that constantly. You can actually kill those adverts and tell Instagram or Facebook, whoever, that they're irrelevant, and they will never show you those ads again.
Yeah.
And all that sort of stuff. So it's a thoroughbred horse, right? If you train it properly, it will work to your advantage, and that's kind of what I'm hoping it will be until they change the algorithm, and then that fucks us all, right?
Good old algorithms.
I don't know anything about them. I just know the word.
Yeah. That's why we have Sven. He's our tech guy.
Yeah.
A very good job. That the post for what was the thing for this week's competition? Right on that. This run, this Le Jog at the weekend. What is your expectation of mileage from everybody? 874 miles. How many members are in the Strava group?
We've got there's over 100 in the Strava group.
And they participating?
Well, we're trying to literally, whoever says they want to do it, we want to just solely focus on them. Colin's going to do about 26 miles, isn't he, Colin?
You can do a marathon, eh?
I said 20.
All right. Must have
go the extra 6. Don't sort of half choke it, man.
Yeah, come on.
Just go full hog. What the hell?
Do the last 6 barefoot.
Yeah, if you will as well.
I don't know. It's going to be a tough challenge, but it's just
everyone does it.
Something to aim for.
8.74 miles if the 100 Strava group, if everyone commits.
Yeah.
That's plausible, isn't it?
Yeah, you got 2 days.
What, to do that distance?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not. I was wondering whether I go off and just nail the 8.74 and then have done with it. But
you can do it twice.
Or this could be the weekend that you do your marathon. Just saying. Just putting it out there.
Touche, Colin. Touche. Yeah, I'll chew on that for a couple of days. It's plausible. I might.
You're thinking about it now, aren't you?
I am thinking about it. Yeah.
If you do the marathon this weekend, I'll let you have a show.
I won't do the full marathon. If anything, it'll be the half to test the threshold. I will not commit to a full marathon at the moment.
Okay.
Fair enough.
Fair enough.
All right. Okay. No, yeah, that's on. Yeah, fine. All right. So that's the answer to the question. So I'll get some mileage in, and that'll lessen however. I mean, what's the feedback off it? Is everyone being like, oh, let's go, let's do it?
Yeah, people have been really positive. We did have a couple of issues with the website where people couldn't sign up, but
do we need to sign up for it?
Guys sorted it out.
Do we need to sign up for it?
It's just so we've got people's details.
If we do it, we're thinking about doing like a sort of finisher's certificate that we can email through to people.
Yeah.
Just as like a little something.
Okay, so there is a link in the post, is there?
Yeah,
if you go to your website.
Yeah, if you go to the bio, go into the link tree, it says there's a challenge section in there, and it takes you straight through where you can just pop your details in.
Or is it wildrunners.co.uk?
Is it done?
The Wildrunners. Yeah.
Oh, the Wildrunners.
Yeah.
So I'll just bring it up so I remember to do it.
How are we doing on time, Dan? I know there's...
We've got it set for an hour and a half anyway, so we're fine.
Cool.
Yeah.
It's confident.
Oh, yeah.
Could have sat here like a dumb mute for...
Well, we thought we'd be optimistic and record a long podcast for people's long runs this weekend, so they got something good to listen to.
So bore them to bore them to tears, I'm sure of it. It's interesting. What platform are you using for the podcast? So, as in, like, to host it?
This Zoom.
This is it.
Oh, just Zoom.
Yeah.
And then you download the file and stick it on YouTube. Then how did you do the same thing with Spotify?
Yeah, you upload it to Anchor, and then that distributes it around loads of different platforms.
Nice. All right.
So yeah, someone I follow, he does his own podcast, so I asked him how he does his, and yeah, it seems to be the easiest way, cheapest way to do it.
Do you know how many subscribers you got to it yet?
I think we can. I don't know how many people follow us on YouTube or
YouTube
Spotify or anything like that.
I'm the second one.
Cool.
I followed it today.
We have doubled our YouTube following.
Yes.
Huh?
That's our goal.
That ad revenue is going to be coming in, isn't it?
Yeah.
Thick and fast. Although you just ignore it, and then all of a sudden it jumps. So for some reason or another, I've got 23 followers on YouTube for the food videos and drone stuff, and I did this baked cashew nut thing, and it's had like 1,500 views. What the fuck?
Yes, I watched that.
It's
I watched
not
that, and
that
I was really hungry for cashew nuts after watching that.
Huh? Did you watch it?
Yeah. I went out and bought a bag of cashew nuts.
Oh, they're fantastic. Honestly, bake them 9 minutes. 9 minutes.
Yeah,
Smoke paprika and everything. Get them dirt cheap from Lidl. Job done, man. They're just the beast.
I wasn't prepared to wait. I just wanted to eat some cashew nuts after watching it, so I think I got some Marmite ones.
All about planning, Colin.
Yeah.
Anyhow, any other questions? What else is there to discuss? Have we put the world to rights?
Yeah, we've got 4 questions that we're going to ask every single guest that comes on. So the first one is, what's your favourite brand of running gear?
What, in shoes or
shoes, clothing?
I
anti-chafe cream, whatever you like.
Nipple cream.
Yeah.
I guess the Vibrams I have for the last 4 pairs of trainers I've had have been the last 4 pairs of trainers that I've had. So I would say, hands down, the Vibrams. I've got a no. I think the running pants that I have, running trousers I have are Saucony or something like that. They were cheapest, and had the functionality that I wanted. I'm not particularly brand pure on the clothing side of things, so long as it's tight fitting to expose my bulge.
Oh, on that note, then the next question is: what one piece of equipment would you take to a desert island? So, like workout equipment. You can already run on a desert island, so running isn't included in this. You can do laps of the island.
That's a good question. Sit-up bench. I love that thing. So I've got a like 45-degree sit-up bench thing. Because if it's a desert island, you're going to have trees, so you don't need to pull up, and you can learn to shimmy up the tree and shit and do all that sort of stuff, one would hope. Otherwise, you're probably dead in 3 weeks.
You don't get any coconuts.
Yeah, I think that's a really good question. I've never really thought that one through, to be honest. I would say that would be the thing that I've always sort of lent onto. I don't know whether you're even, from a posture standpoint, encouraged to do sort of 45-degree sit-ups, but they feel like they're doing better for your abs than if you were just lying flat on the ground.
I think if it was bad for you, it would have hurt people, and they wouldn't be getting made anymore because they've been around for years, haven't they? So yeah, I think I've got one, and they are good. Yeah. So I'd take that. Yeah, for sure. Third question is, what do you listen to when you run? So it would be music, podcasts, audiobook. No, just. So
I tell a lie. So a bit of both. I write a blog on headphones or not. And I spend more time not because I'm with the dog, and so he's with me, and I'm listening for him, and cars coming, and especially in this heightened time where dogs are being stolen and stuff, that I'm slightly more aware of. I quite like the dog. He can be a pain in the ass, but I don't want anyone to nick him and turn him into fight fodder or anything like that, especially seeing he's neutered. So I don't typically run with anything, but I've recently introduced this sort of Sunday run stuff. Again, this is all somewhat attributed to the Wildrunners stuff and all that sort of stuff. So it's been a good catalyst to do more. So thank you both, all three of you, for that. But I do wear the headphones on the Sunday run because I don't need to worry about it. It's all rock music. So I'm thoroughly enjoying the new Foo Fighters album at the moment. I am sweating bullets for the new Royal Blood album, which comes out in April. That should be fantastic. And a variety of old school rock like Van Halen. I used to be dance music a long time ago, but I find that gets monotonous and really annoying. You're talking to a househead here, man. I love. I'm massive Sasha fan. During the day, I like his Last Night on Earth series that he does. Big fan of Max Graham for a long time. I started getting into Eric Prydz when he was doing his podcast with various different bits of music, and then I listened to his most recent album, Opus, and it was the same shit over and over again, which I just found annoying. And I seem to deviate back to, and I think at risk of again sounding like a tool, but I've taken it that the age thing's kicked in, and I just quite like that 3-4 minutes of stuff. Although having said that, Leonard Skinner's Free Bird, probably one of the best songs, 13 minutes long, and it's mainly a guitar solo toward the back end of it. It's absolutely epic and great for running because it just keeps on going, and it usually hits right at the end of a run where your energies are high.
Cool. And then the last question is, what one bit of advice would you give to a new runner?
Take your time.
In what respect? In what respect?
Start walking. Once you walk, try a jog, and once you're jogging, if you want to stop because you're out of breath, stop. Doesn't matter. You can I run walk even now. I think there's a lot of I think some of the fastest distance runners have walks. I mean, this book Born to Run was saying the other day that the time you save running up a hill versus walking is so minimal that you might as well just walk up the hill and conserve your energy, and then you can keep running when you're at the top of the hill and keep going. My advice would be is just persevere. It gets better, and take your time. There's no, unless you're actually in a race and you're Usain Bolt, you've got nothing, and you're a professional at this, in which case you're at a different level anyway. Just go out there and enjoy it, and maybe start without music. I mean, start without music and enjoy what's around you, perhaps, or not. Or yeah, it's that time piece. I think there's just sort of just give it a go.
Cool. I haven't got any
advice
questions.
Would you give?
What advice will I give? Don't compare yourself to anyone else.
Yeah, it's a good chat.
Just do you. Like, don't compare your time, don't compare your distance. Yeah, just do you.
And what about you, Daniel? Forgive me for calling you Daniel. It's just my sort of MO.
I mean, one of the things I didn't do for the first, I'm only very recent to like Strava, to be honest with you.
Okay.
So all the years before, I had no idea what my times were like until I went into a race. Now, I don't know if that helped me or not, because when I went into a race, I went out too hard.
Yeah.
Because I was always like, I've got to catch up with them. And I was always competitive, trying to beat people.
Yeah.
So now it's like what you're saying, just, run your race. I know it's hard when you're with other people, but if you're just starting off, like I say, go out, stop every 500 meters or whatever, just take it easy. And a lot of people get disheartened when they look at other people's stats and like, oh wow, he's run this at this pace. And I think this is like coming back to the Strava crowns. Like, people are like, oh, like, he's running in this, I can do that. And if you try and do that too early, all you're going to do is just injure yourself.
Yeah.
So it's that competitiveness. You've got to try and hold back. Like I said, walk before you can run.
Everyone goes through the injury piece. Every single runner that I know or speak to, in whatever forum it is, has had an injury, has had a knee thing, has had to rest up, or have gotten sick or what have you else. There's no, if you're going to take up running, just take your time. It will become an obsession, and it costs you nothing.
Yeah.
Just walk out the door, man.
Mm-hmm.
It's not, and work up a sweat, and it will inspire you to then maybe do other stuff and all that sort of stuff. That's kind of, but three of us are all runners, so you've already worked out the hook. So yeah, I don't think I could not do it. And as I say, it's sort of more serious now than ever. So long may it continue.
Yeah, definitely.
Cool.
Yes.
Anything else? What time is it? Look at that.
10:09. Yeah.
Christ alive.
So, well, we can wrap up. Ben, where can people find you, if anyone who isn't following you already, or where can what are your social media and YouTube?
So I mean, I'm on Twitter. I'm on Twitter as the daddy_barefoot. I mean, I think there's about 20 followers. Twitter's become a bit of a cesspool as well. We're talking about social media earlier. I'd set it up just out of principle, but I'm not. Yeah, I used to be quite into Twitter and then sort of drifted off it. But so you can find me there. But it is in sum total. Instagram is where I am most active, which is the Barefoot Daddy, at the Barefoot Daddy. I do have a web page, and I would love for everybody to follow the YouTube channel, which is also called the Barefoot Daddy, and there will be more content. And I'm trying to come up with various different things, be it barefoot or just virtual running videos, that if you're watching on a the idea is I have a camera on order that will be coming that will hopefully give better footage quality to some of the runs that I do when I do them and all that sort of stuff. So they will go onto YouTube, and that area will morph over time, hopefully, with some cooking stuff and all that sort of thing. So yeah, those are the places, and the website, barefootdaddy.com.
Cool, awesome. Well, I mean, thank you for coming on. I've enjoyed it.
Yeah, thank you for that. It's been really good.
It was good to chat, and I very much look forward to meeting the pair of you and Sven, of course, who is obviously not here, in a face-to-face scenario. A pub would be better than necessarily running. That sounds as though, and then we could sort of wind the hours away. We don't come up that area because you're both Bury St Edmunds, right?
Colin's not, no.
No, I'm not. I'm
Where are you?
Midlands.
Where?
Northamptonshire.
Northampton Saints follower?
Wrong shape ball.
Oh,
I don't really follow rugby.
give yourself a slap, sir. My grandfather, who recently passed, was a big Northampton with the Saints fan.
Yeah.
So there are some family links to that sort of neck of the woods. My sister went to college in that area. Anyhow, we do come up, and obviously I think a meet is probably the most likely time that we will gather in the first instance. But I do look forward to drinking a large quantity of beer with either of you at some point. It's been a pleasure to actually hear your voices. I'll have that in my head, and each time we're chatting on Instagram now.
Cool.
Definitely.
Nice.
Cool.
Rock and roll, boys. So
Cheers.
Yep. We'll stop the recording. But thanks for listening, everyone.
Cheers.
yeah.